recorded.
Thank you for joining the State Common Council at our finance meeting around the 2021 budget and building safety. Today is Wednesday, November 4th. My name is Andrea Schott, the Council President and organizer for our virtual meetings. Before we begin, we would like to go over a few guidelines to help us navigate the system as efficiently and respectfully as possible. Ask that members of the public and press remain muted and off camera for the length of the meeting.
Be included in the design for the new buildings. And they are pretty far through this process.
Control your own mute button. This would be to mute yourself if you're not speaking to avoid background noise and feedback. When the council member staff wishes to speak, they will raise their hands. The chairperson will call on them before they speak by stating their name clearly for our audio listeners. Recorded, both video and written transcriptions will be made available to the public on the city's website. Although we will not have public speaking tonight, you could sign up to speak at our council meeting by emailing Elisa Tinty, or you could submit written comments by emailing Elisa Tinty at emtinty@kingston-ny.gov, or by dropping them off at the drop box located outside the side door of City Hall. We also encourage you to reach out to committee chairs or your ward's representative at any time. If you have any audio issues, send a text message to the following number, 845-6120. Please note that phone calls will not be answered during the meeting. The number to text is 845-594-6120. As the organizer, I reserve the right to lock and pause the meeting for anyone who has behaved inappropriately. Lastly, at tonight's meeting, we have in attendance Chair Alderman Doug Coop, committee members, Alderman Rennie Scott Childress, Alderman Steve Shabbat, Alderwoman Michelle Hirsch, Alderman Tony Davis. Non-voting council members, we have Alderman Don Tollerman and Alderman Patrick O'Reilly. City staff, we have Comptroller John Toohey, Director of Building Safety Steve Knox, City Clerk Elisa Tinty, and Fire Chief Mark Brown. Thank you for your patience, and on behalf of the Common Council, I wish you and your family good health. And I now turn the floor over to Chair Doug Coop. Unmute yourself, Doug, please.
Unmute yourself, Doug, please.
Okay, let's get good evening. Thank you again, Andrea Schutt. Tonight we'll be reviewing the 2021 budgets of the fire department. We have with us Chief Brown, and we'll go with Mark first, and then following we'll go with the building code and Steve Knox. Thank you for attending. We do have a full membership of the finance committee here, but it's very gratifying to see other members of the Common Council here, Alderman O'Reilly and Tollerman, and I think that's all of us, okay? So I thank you all for attending. Chief, let's go directly to the fire department budget. I'll only make a 30-second open statement and then throw it up to questions for our colleagues. I have a number of questions myself, but several of my colleagues probably all have the same questions, so I'll defer to them. I'll just notice that in total, we work from variance sheets. You have a total variance which is favorable on the expense side by $111,275, but unfavorable in revenues, primarily due to the loss of federal assistance of $212 to $212,677, which nets out to a very unfavorable $101,402. So I have some questions on that, but Mark, if you'd like to make any opening statements, please go ahead now.
Well, as I say every year, we're not a revenue department, we're a public safety department, and losing the SAFER grant did not help. That's where we lost the majority of our funding. We did reapply for it and was turned down. So that's part of it. That's why we have the big drop in revenue. Besides that, I'm open for questions. I feel I did a good job in cutting my budget. Nobody.
I'm sorry, I'll just start by making an observation that starting with personal services, you show a favorable variance of $71,511, primarily driven by the fact that you have no change in headcount, although there are major changes between firefighter 1 up to firefighter 8. There's some changes in steps. But I do see line 103, a significant increase in overtime pay. Now I'm just wondering, where's that coming from?
Hold on one second. For this year?
Line 103, the overtime pay.
103 is down.
103 is down 20,000. And we'll be well below.
A decrease in overtime pay. Your headcount is constant, but you're also reducing the overtime. How are you able to do that? I mean, that's a good thing. Certainly not complaining about it, but we like to believe that these things could happen.
Well, we finally have gotten rid of a lot of people that were on the injured list, and they're back to work. And this year, probably due to COVID, our overtime is down substantially. I believe it will stay down. We'll be well under 300,000 this year. So I believe 250 is a sound number. The overtime has fallen off as the job has gotten younger, which it is getting younger.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you're showing favorable of a little over $71,000 for personal services. I see a line 211, other equipment expenditures are down by just under $18,000. Which is a good thing.
Doug.
Yes.
So we went from personal services down to expenses. And can we just do those groups first? If anybody else has any question in regard to personal services.
Absolutely. If you have questions, please chime in. Go ahead, Tony.
Chief Brownie, line item 126, fitness incentives. It's been brought to my attention that it was an article in the paper about you guys having, and obviously I know it, and that you guys had, the fitness centers at each station. And so question came up of that figure of 15.3. What does that include?
Well, first off, the fitness incentive's been there since Chief Salzman. What's happened is throughout the years, firefighting's become a more strenuous activity. The union took it upon themselves to purchase all the equipment. We gave them a spot to put it. If there's time allotted, they have time to work out when they're working. If there's no time allotted, they basically have to come in on their own time and work out. It is extremely important to stay healthy on this job. It's definitely a young man's job. You carry around 100 pounds of equipment every time you're on a fire call. So if you break that down, it's $300 a man a year, which is less than $1 a day. Like I said, it was long before I came to be chief.
Oh, yeah.
It's a great.
That's used for if people want to go to a gym, right? Like the Y or to the Planet Fitness. So so I this the lay person out there doesn't, who's looking at the books doesn't know what that means. I mean, obviously I did, but they brought that up, so I wanted to just put that question out there. So like you said, it comes out to about $300 per man for the year.
Yeah, it is $300. That's what it is. $300 a man.
I can't hear you.
It's $300 a man.
Yeah, and so it's about $1 a day, you say?
$1 a day.
Yeah.
Basically.
So again, that fitness incentive is this: everybody can't be on the job at all times, and obviously firefighters are not working out constantly. If you have to make responding to calls. So and then everybody who's off can't always just come in and use the gym. They're going to the Y or Planet Fitness or wherever they might want to go to.
The bottom line here is maybe years ago they had time to use the gym. You want to talk about this year with COVID, these guys are running a lot of calls. There aren't too many guys down there in that gym. Not at all.
Thank you, Chief.
Yep. Unmute. Doug, you on unmute, Doug.
Steve Shabbat, please, followed by Michelle Hirsch. Steve?
Hey, Chief. Actually, I think it's a great thing to have this fitness incentive, but are there anything mandatory about working out for them?
No.
As far as a fitness regimen, are they on their own for that? You don't monitor that, do you?
No, I do not. It's not monitored. You have guys that prefer to work out in other places. They go to the YMCA, they go to Fitness Unlimited. I don't monitor it. There's enough to do here. I don't have the time to be monitoring what they're doing. I can tell you.
I'm sure, but it's just voluntary, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Michelle?
Thank you. Hi, Chief Brown, Michelle Hirsch, Ward 9. Good to see you. I just wanted to, I see that about half of the fire force is step 8, and I'm just asking if you expect any retirements in the coming year.
We just had one. Well, one that will be leaving in January. It's hard to say. The job has gotten younger. As you can see, we have basically 11 new hires in the last 3 years. As long as we keep getting younger, less overtime, less injuries, it's a better job. I mean, we can't force people out. At 62, they're pretty much mandatory to retire. Except for me, I'm hanging around.
Thank you.
Other questions on personal services? Okay, I think we understand that. We can move to the equipment, Mark, line 211. Expenditures down by $17,837. That's a good thing, but why is that happening?
Well, I'm going to be totally honest with you. I believe our department heads were given a task. That task was to cut our budgets due to COVID. I realize that. I'm a taxpayer here too. I don't want to see taxes go up. So what I did was I put together a budget that I can live with. It's just going to mean I have to tighten ship. That's basically what it means. So I cut what I could to save the budget. That's my job. Is it going to be tough? Yeah, it's going to be tough, but we can do it. We'll do it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
What was other equipment, Chief?
It's basically a catch-all. Like say you need a set of jaws, or it's stuff that's not covered under other budget lines, turnout gear, stuff like that.
Moving to contracted services, line 414, the employee training is down substantially from $14,000 down to $15,000. So that's a reduction of $25,000 for employee training. Are you reducing? You're obviously reducing training.
Well, no, not really. We do training in-house. What that covers is when you're hired on this job, you got to go away for 11 weeks to recruit training school. And that's $5,000 a firefighter. So this year I had 5 new firefighters at $5,000. That was $20,000 right there. And then there's courses throughout the year that we send people to. However, what's happened this year is everything got canceled because of COVID. So I don't foresee more than 3 new firefighters next year, if any. I don't know how the city's going to react to filling positions or not filling positions. So I mean, I can't substantiate 34,000 at this time to 15. Can it work? Yeah, it can work. As long as we don't get a massive retirement. If I get a massive retirement, I get 5-6 guys retire, I can send 5-6 guys to rookie school. That's $25,000 right there. So I mean, at this point, I don't see that happening. 1 or 2, maybe. We'll have to see how the year goes. It's a different mindset because a lot of guys have a lot, there's nothing to do. They want to see where COVID goes. They're not going to leave if there's nothing to do. Basically, that's how I feel it. If they feel we're getting locked down again, they're going to hang around because they might as well come to work and sit home. And we're here. We didn't get to work from home, unfortunately. So we're here. So I think, I mean, if suddenly that happened, I'd be up knocking on your door, doing a request for funds. That's what I have to do.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, John.
Steve, please. Steve Sabat.
Yeah, Chief. Yeah, obviously, the whole COVID thing has changed the whole perspective on training. Has any of the training requirements? Has there been any relaxing of any training or anything like that? At least during the COVID.
I mean, we've pretty much, for the record, we've had 1 COVID case in this department, which is pretty good considering how many COVID patients we've treated. But we still have done in-house training. We now have the Ulster County Training Center out in East Kingston we can use. It's probably going to cost us a little overtime to do that, but we have to maintain our training, and it's close by. So we've pretty much done everything in-house. We're just now loosening up where we can send people away. So we're doing that. In lieu of sending people to, say, flip school in New York City, we're doing it right here in the county until things get leveled out.
Okay.
Chief, if we can move on into contracted services. We already have. We talked about employee training, but moving on in contracted services, there's a lot of favorable variances there, which we appreciate, but I still wonder how they're going to happen. Line 426, vehicle fuel is down with all the calls you're making. How do you do that?
Well, first off, the new apparatus get better mileage because they're more efficient. I don't burn as much fuel. Second, I've kind of locked them down. They're not allowed to go out as much as they used to until this settles down. And I have to go with the comptroller. He's filling me in on what he believes the fuel price is going to be. And together we came up with that number. I believe we're down this year too, right, John, on fuel costs?
Yes, you are.
So, I think it's a good number. I'm going to tell you, I spent a lot of time on this budget, more than I have any other budget. I'm very confident we can make this budget work.
Okay,
It's just,
appreciate that.
It means tightening our belts. That's what it means. And hopefully, next year we can get back some of what we're giving back this year. But I think we can make this work.
You're
ready?
Oh, go ahead, Rennie. Yeah, I was just curious, Chief, line 472, contracted services goes from 50,000 down to 0. So I'm wondering, is that put somewhere else, or what's up with that?
Now, that's a beautiful thing. We're not paying Ulster County Fire Control anymore to dispatchers, which should have been done years ago because we're just another department in the county. Everybody else gets it for free. Why shouldn't us? So I guess we could give a thank out to Brian Waltman, who worked really hard when he was up in the county legislature to get rid of that for us, and it's gone. We don't pay it anymore. So this is our last year. It's $25,000, and then we're done with it. It saves us a total of $75,000 because that's what we had paid for a lot of years.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah. Chief, I know you work very hard on this budget, but you please understand anytime we see major changes up or down, that does raise questions. So that's why we focus in on these. And another one is line 444, vehicle maintenance. Do you need to maintain your equipment less, or is this just a reflection of what has happened, or how does that come about?
Well, here's what's happening is we have another new rig coming in January that was bonded last year, 2020's budget. So that'll give us 2 new engines and a new truck. So that would say to me that our maintenance costs should start coming down now. This has been a tough year. We had a lot of problems with engine 3, which would have been in the capital budget this year. However, I got that worked out by spending a little extra money and saving. I didn't want to go capital this year because I had 3 apparatus in the past 3 years. I realized again that we had to tighten our belts. So I think 35 is going to be good. We'll keep doing what we're doing. We've also stockpiled a lot of tires and stuff, so we're in good shape. As long as we don't get a major problem, but we're going to have 2 brand new engines and a brand new truck. The only one that could break down is engine 3, and I have 2 reserve engines, so I should be fine.
Mm-hmm. Tony Davis, please.
And Chief, Tony Davis there, Chief, and I hope that the city residents appreciate you tightening it down, and especially with the capital plan, and that you realize that economic situation we have here, and holding off on asking for anything on the capital plan. So I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I
Michelle?
got one other question here on 478 though. What is the equipment rental? What are we renting here?
Oh, you mean 473? That's our radio system.
Radio system?
Yeah, it's our trunk radio system, which including that price is maintenance on it. So it's like 34 a year, and then there's other minor stuff in there. Some of the oxygen tanks, the copy machine, stuff like that. The biggest expense in there is my Comco for the radio system.
Other questions on contract? Michelle?
No, I just wanted to add to what Tony was saying. I know that the fire department, you all, put your lives on the line every day to save our lives and our property. And I appreciate how carefully you cut from the budget, but I want to just make sure that everyone is safe and that you all are safe and that you come back to us if you need anything.
I will definitely do that. Like I said, this year was tough with a lot of my items are down because of COVID. The one thing we did really well, I got to pat myself on the back, is we prepared for it. In January, we ordered a bunch of PPE, and right now we've stockpiled PPE the entire year. So I have like 2,000 N95s. I have over 1,000 pairs of gloves. I mean, I'm prepared for a second wave. But, if things start opening up again, everything's going to change, and I don't know how that's going to react. But I think I'll be up if I have to. I'm going to try to stay away. Nothing personal, guys, but I think I got a good budget here. I think I can make it work.
Thank you.
Okay, moving into employee benefits, I think we understand that. Those are primarily contractual things that we don't have a whole lot of control over. Bringing us down to the bottom line, expenses are favorable by 1.4% or $111,275. So we appreciate all the pruning and cutting and things you've done to make that happen. So that's a good thing. Of course, the most disturbing thing is the decrease in revenues, and I understand it's probably not something you have a lot of control over, but we're losing almost $207,000 in federal assistance. I would just ask flat, why is that?
I don't know. For some reason, Yonkers did the same exact grant we did. What we did was we piggybacked on our SAFER grant that we hired 4 firefighters with. And we asked them due to COVID to take that, give us 3 more years and supply 3 more years for the 4 firefighters we hired. They told us no, they told Yonkers yes. The closer you get to New York City, the better chances you are of getting a grant. You know, we were lucky we got one, we didn't get 2. It'll come out again this year in 2021 and we'll slam them right back for another one. I'll be right up to Kristen's office. Chris Ray, my assistant chief, will work on it. Every time a grant comes out for firefighters, we apply. So it's going to be once election time comes down and we know who to call. You know, we were with Kristen Gillibrand and Schumer and D'Agato. We contact all those people, and apparently it just didn't work this time. We've gotten 4 safer grants, I think, so far.
Chief, I certainly appreciate that the loss in that huge loss in federal assistance has put a large load on you to expenses to the best that you can, and I think you've done a good job. I personally don't have a problem with costs going up by $101,000 in these times, particularly driven by retirements and a bunch of other things. But you've done a good job with reducing contractual expenses and maintenance wherever you can. I know that puts operational pressures on you. We certainly hope this can happen. And John Toohey is off, as he always does every month, monitors all this stuff very closely, and we do watch it. So that's the challenge. So I don't have any other questions on the fire department. Does anyone else? Okay, thank you for that. Let's move on to examining.
I want to thank all of you for your help and concern about the fire department. I want to thank the council for sending food down during the pandemic. I really appreciated it, and the guys appreciate it. So thank you, and I'm open for questions anytime you want to call. You know my number. Thank you.
Okay.
Who does examining?
Let's move on to the examining board, page 96 in the budget book. We see a favorable variance there of $27,094. My only question on that is you're going line personal services 112 0 for part-time employees. You're cutting out all part-time employees, which gives us a benefit of about $17,000.
Which is that the electrical board?
This is on the examining board, page 96 in the budget book, line item 112. It's about the only sizable item in the examining board budget.
Yeah,
It's favorable.
I can probably
0 part-time employees.
I can probably assist with that.
Steve, is that zoning?
No, the examining board last year, it was under our budget, building safety's budget, and we hired a part-time clerk to assist with permits and licensing. However, Mark and the fire department kept the licensing of electricians, and building safety will still be doing permitting for electricians starting in 2021. But we were the staffing.
Okay.
So Steve, who just is going to be doing that? I'm sorry? Who's going to be doing that work? That service? Mark will, the fire department will continue to do licensing of electricians, but permits will come out of building safety. All right, thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments on the examining board?
Alderman Cooper, you done with me pretty much, or do you want me to hang out?
Mm-hmm. Okay, if there are no other comments, I think there's nothing in the capital plan for the fire department. No big trucks, no big engines this year, huh? That's welcome to see. Look out for next year.
Look out for next year. I got big plans. Don't forget, we have a firehouse here. That's
You don't have to answer that now. You answer it next year.
Okay.
Okay.
Right, Brownie. See you, Brownie.
Night, everyone. Thank you.
Okay, Mark, thank you very much. Now, Steve, chop it, please. Steve, or were you just waving goodbye? I think he was waving goodbye to Mark. Okay, let's bring in Steve Knox to talk about the various departments within building code. If we go to the building code, page 98 in the budget book, bottom line, you're favorable by $114,056. Revenues are up $168,000, and expenses are down. Our revenue is up and expenses are up $53,944, giving us a favorable $114,056. So globally for the whole department, that's good. The questions I would have is that part-time employees are seem to be increased. Line 112, Steve.
Sure. Yeah. So we just kind of talked about me eliminating the part-time clerk position for the Board of Examiners, electrical examiners. Going into 2021, the mayor has spoken with me about taking over, or our department about taking over commercial property fire inspections for 2021, which have been traditionally done by the fire department. However, the fire department has been too busy to conduct those inspections, which are required to be done by the state. So we're going to give it a go in 2021. So as part of my budget, I asked for a part-time clerk to handle the paperwork that's going to be associated with those inspections. Also will still help with electrical permits. I did ask for a full-time inspector to do inspections for the commercial property inspections. In speaking with the mayor, he kind of went in a little bit different direction, and we'll be basically sharing a staff member with another department to do those inspections. Yeah. So
overtime pay seems to be up.
Sure. Because I didn't think the part-time clerk's 17 and a half hours were going to be enough to do the volume of work that I know is going to come from those additional inspections. Because we're looking at probably a little over 800 commercial properties in the city of Kingston that's going to need to be inspected each year, which is going to require a ton more, paperwork. So I added some additional funds on the overtime line so that I can have that clerk do about 20 to 25 hours a week as needed.
Okay.
Instead of hiring a full-timer and benefits and everything that goes along with that.
In contracted services, Steve, line 443, maintenance of the building is down almost $5,000. First of all, what building are you talking about there?
This is the firehouse on Garrigan Drive.
Okay.
But
how is that down so much? That's a large percentage, a decrease.
Well,
5,000 over 8,000.
right. So last year we put in for some work in the building. One of the things was to replace the front entrance door, which is having some issues and causing the door to really stick and people having a hard time getting out of it. But our air conditioners kicked the bucket over the summer, and we had to replace one of the air conditioner units. So we ended up spending that money on the air conditioning unit instead of replacing the door. But I mean, I had to cut my budget in some areas. So that was one of the areas that I cut. So I was going to put the door replacement off, and that's, you know, kind of where the reduction came. It still allows me enough money to do the maintenance that I need to do, but not everything I'd like to do.
Does that same reasoning also apply to line 471 service contracts? Down $2,880, almost 50%.
Well, the service contracts that's down because initially we were getting tablets to use with the new Municity software, and it was going to be a monthly charge because we were going to rent them and pay a service fee. And then as we look further this year, it was cheaper to go ahead and purchase the tablets and not have a service fee. So that's why you have the reduction there, because I actually purchased some of the tablets this year, and I might have to just grab a couple more going into 2021. And we don't have the service charge each month.
On the expense side, I don't have any additional questions. I do have one question on the revenue side.
Yeah.
Building and alterations permit fees, line 2555. That's a big chunk, going up from $500,000 up to $662,000, an increase of $162,000. I hope it happens.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's good if it does, but is it?
Well, I initially when I submitted my proposal for commercial property inspections, it was for a full-time inspector to do those inspections. I didn't quite get a full-time inspection, so I do think that revenue line may be a little bit high, but I mean we're trying this out for this year to see how effective we can be at conducting those inspections, and the revenue I hope to get close to that, but if I don't have a full timer, I think the number may need to be revised a little, but
Michelle?
Hi, yes, Steve, good to see you. So for the commercial inspections, does the person, the inspector, need to have a different credential for doing commercial properties than the regular building?
Well, there are two different types of certifications for inspectors. What's needed is what's called the CEO, Certified Code Enforcement Officer, which that person would have to have. And then there's some additional training and stuff that also would go along with it, because commercial fire inspections are pretty specific and detailed. So they'll need to do a little bit of training to be able to conduct those inspections. Yes.
All right, so that will be somebody that's on your staff and it's coming.
Well, it's someone that's already on the city staff that works in community development, who does already have code enforcement officer certification. And she does have, and she has been a home inspector for years also. So, it could work out good.
So then how much time will they devote to commercial inspections?
In speaking with the mayor, he says 3, maybe 4 days a week, but I'm probably counting on 3 days a week.
And so then you expect to then maybe get a quarter of the 800 inspections done a year then with that schedule?
I expect to probably get about 60% of those inspections done.
Okay.
Rennie followed by Patrick O'Reilly.
Yeah, so Steve, I'm looking at page 99, which is the personnel summary, and there's this difference in the building inspector line where you had requested almost double the 2020 budget, and then I see it's knocked back down to virtually the same thing as the 2020 budget. Is that where you were looking at getting a full-time person?
That's correct.
Okay, so sounds like then part of the dilemma is that, well, the advantage of going with the person who's in the other department, there's not going to be a hiring process. Is that right?
That's correct.
But then the downside is you're only getting a half-time position in essence.
That's correct. Yes. Yeah.
So if we were looking at altering this and creating a full-time position there, do you think there would be difficulty in finding somebody to do that position full-time?
No, I don't think there'd be any difficulty in finding someone to do it.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Patrick?
Hey, Steve. Patrick O'Reilly, how are you?
Good, Pat.
Good. We were talking to Mr. Kitchen, your zoning officer, at the Laws and Rules, and it appeared that he was a very busy man. And it came to light that we may need a full-time zoning officer. Is that true, Steve? And did you think about that at all?
I have given some thought to that. I don't know if we need a full-time zoning officer. At some point, I think if one of my other inspectors, retired, or my part-time inspector retired, turning his position into a position that could do zoning and inspections would probably benefit the office, and because we'd have a zoning officer at least in the building all the time, because we do get a lot of questions and stuff when he's off. But I don't think I necessarily need a zoning officer full time.
From what he told us, it appeared that you did need a full-time zoning officer. I was just and I was thinking that I wonder what the discrepancy there is. Why was he saying that the city needs more time on zoning? I think he's right that we're getting more projects in and more zoning issues.
I will say this. I don't necessarily think 17 and a half hours is quite enough, but I don't think his workload rises to the level of needing a full-time officer just for zoning.
Can we increase his time anyway, somehow?
I would love to be able to increase it and put it in a budget. I think this year, I'll probably be coming to you guys, next week for to move some funds and stuff to cover some additional hours he's had to do this year and stuff. Because 17 and a half isn't quite enough, but
Why don't you take a good look at that for me, would you, Steve? Because I'm thinking, like, from what he described as going on in the city, there seems to be a lot of zoning issues, and I believe him. Sure there is, and because I see a lot of stuff going on around even my ward that require a zoning officer to go take a look at. So if you could take a look at that, put it in your budget, that would be great. A little more time.
I mean, I agree with you. There's times where he needs additional time, and then there's other months where there's not a lot, and that time's not necessary. So to have someone full time, I don't think is necessary, but definitely having some additional time, additional funds, so that I can use them for the additional hours when required would be great.
Thank you, Steve.
Tony Davis, followed by Andrea Shutt.
So Steve here, we got here. So you put a request of about 404,000 in salaries, and you were approved for or recommended for 358,000. So that's about $26,000 difference. You also have here part-time, if I'm going back to line item 103, which is overtime pay, and up 9,000, and then part-time employees up 9,000 or 17,000. So that's about $20,000 or 26,000. So it seems like we're saying if we were to make this a full-time position and create a full-time COO, whatever you called it, to monitor these 8 commercial buildings. That's about, you're talking about what we're talking about, $46,000 salary or something like that.
Well, I think maybe I wasn't clear on something that part-time fee is for a clerk's position, not a building inspector.
So that's not it for a building inspector. So a building inspector, we're talking about, they come in here at bottom lines. I'm assuming these are union positions or CSA positions. So this person would come in at step 1.
Correct.
And so what are we looking at? Do we have anybody on anywhere in any department that has that qualifications? What are we looking at, John, about on this as step 1? Would this be around a $46,000 position? And that's before benefits, correct? Because this would have to be a full-time position.
Which position are you referring to? The building inspector or the commercial property inspector?
The commercial property inspector.
We'd have to look at that. It would be at least, I would think it would be in the range of that building inspector position, which is, give me 1 second.
The only reason I'm saying, because then we might.
Well, a building inspector, step 1 salary of a building inspector is $43,798. But keep in mind, the budget as is included right now, that work is being done by someone who's already on payroll. So there's no additional budgetary cost to the city with how it's being planned to do right now. So if we were to add an additional body, it's just additional costs that you'd be adding into the budget.
Correct, because then that person, right now, the person's in part-time, and from what Steve's saying, are going about 3 to 4 days a week.
Well, that's 2 different things, right? So right now we're talking about the employee who will be doing the commercial inspections is a full-time employee.
Yes.
Who will be doing that work as part of their current job task. They work out of the community development office, so they're already on payroll. We're not paying them additional to do this work.
But they're working about 3 days a week.
Right. I mean, that's what Steve's conversation with the mayor sounds like, that the employee would be doing approximately 3 days a week.
And Steve is, from what I'm gathering here in this conversation, Steve's saying that's not going to be enough to cover these 800 commercial properties. Therefore, his budget of an increase of $162,000 in the revenue line is not going to be made. And if he's saying he's only thinking he's going to get to 60% of those 800, So that means we really need, that figure needs to be changed now to 60% of, it needs to be subtracted by 60% in the
60%.
revenue.
Well, 60% of what though? Keep in mind that, let's talk about the budget. The budget for 2020 is $500,000. We're on pace to exceed $550,000 right now. The last 2 years, if I just pull it up.
You're talking about in revenue?
Yeah, I'm talking about the revenue right now. So the revenue, in 2018, we had a budget of 350. We finished at 504. Last year, we had a budget of 425. We finished at 564. This year, we're at 500. We're at 378. But there tends to be a lot of re-levies. Last year, there was over $90,000 of re-levies, depending on what that number looks like. But we're on pace around to be close to what that number was last year, which is 564, 550, somewhere in that range. Steve could probably give you a better idea. But we add the re-levies into the revenue. So I think you have to look at, in terms of that number for next year, you probably need to hit about $100,000 in commercial property inspections to reach budget, somewhere in that neighborhood, unless the actual bill, the other fees drop from where they're at this year in a prior last several years, this year and last year.
I'm just because it just seems from what Steve was saying that even though this guy's, whoever this person is full time, that they're only going to be working for the building, working on its 800 commercial properties 3 to 4 days a week. And on the revenue side, as Doug Cooper, it's raised 162,000. And I think it's a question there if we're gonna hit 662,000. So when I'm realistic, saying that number should be changed. Then if we don't think, if he doesn't think we're gonna get to that, why are we putting $662,000 in there?
Well, I do think that if we count the re-levied fees and stuff, I think we may still reach that amount and stuff. But I do think if we don't have the full-time inspector, that revenue in that particular line item would definitely. I don't know if we would meet that 162. I mean, it's difficult to project just because we haven't done this before, But
I mean, the council has different options, right? You can leave it the way it is. You could, if you think that number should come down, the council could certainly reduce that revenue number to what it thinks is a better number or a number that they're more comfortable with. You certainly have options.
And what are you saying it was targeted for this year, John?
We're on, last year we're 564. We're at least on pace as of right now to well, once again, it just depends on what Steve has with re-levies. From this point on last year, we had over $180,000 of revenue, probably over 200,000 because we haven't recorded all of October's cash receipts. So we're on pace pretty close to that 564 that he brought in last year. So, you have about a $100,000 pickup that you have to hit for the commercial property inspections to reach budget. Another option could be for the council is that, you track the revenue in next year. And if Steve comes back and says, look, it's not working. It's, we're not hitting where we think we need to be. Then, the mayor could make a suggestion to either add staffing or make an adjustment there with partnership with the council. But it could work. I mean, you could, I don't think that the revenue number is that far off. I mean, Steve, realistically, $75,000 to $100,000 is that?
yeah, I think $100,000 would be realistic. And I mean, as far as this year too, I think we will definitely reach, 565, maybe a little bit more. Plus, I think we just sent up the re-levies, which were really pretty high this year. And so I think they're about 140,000 re-levies.
Yeah, okay. They're 140, Steve?
Yes.
So that puts your year to date right now at almost 520,000, where the balance of October's even in the books, November or December.
All right. I mean, like I said, I'm just, if the department head doesn't think I don't want to put in a figure here, I mean, I'd rather see that a figure adjusted and go down some than to realistically not make it. But if he's confident, you're confident that this could be made, and I'm not in the day-to-day operations there and seeing it. That if you're confident and Steve's confident that you can get this figure, and then I'm all for it. But if you're not, then I think that we should be adjusting this down so it can be something realistically made.
Well, I think we'll reach the revenue projection for the department. It's that particular line item number that if we don't hit, I kind of want to just let everyone know why that number may not get to where it needs to be, but the overall projected number for the department, I think we will hit.
Hey, can I just add something in there too? Tony, I think you're raising very good points. I tend to be conservative with our revenue numbers. Certainly this number here is probably towards the upper tolerance of what we'd like to see there. Obviously it's a challenging budget year. So take that for what you can right now. Obviously we're trying to do it as creatively and resourcefully as we can with internal staffing that we have. Certainly it's a significant pickup in the budget, but even without adding in the commercial property inspections, that revenue would have increased in the budget regardless, based upon the prior 2 years' performance.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that's.
Okay, Andrea was next, followed by Rennie. Andrea?
Yep, thank you, Doug. I was just gonna go back to something Alderman O'Reilly was talking about, because I know that position, the zoning officer, is 17 hours. Is that what you said? And part-time could go up to 25 hours, right? Without, extending through to getting medical and stuff. John, so this question might be more for John. Like, what is that price difference? And it may not be able to answer right now, but if you could get that to the council specifically, for everybody to see what that
price difference between what?
Working 17 hours and working 25 hours.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
And I would imagine, Steve, that would be helpful for the department, right? To not to go full time, but to kind of find a compromise between that.
Absolutely.
Full time, but some more hours.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the additional hours up to 25 hours a week would be very helpful.
Okay. Thank you.
Rennie is next.
Steve, does the current zoning officer, would he have the capacity to do other types of inspection, either the commercial or the regular building inspector? If there was a week where where his time wasn't fully, if we moved him to 25 hours, and there was a week when he did not need that full amount of time for the zoning duties.
Yes. Yeah, we could have, he's a certified code enforcement officer. He just finished his training, so he would be able to do other types of inspection for us, yes.
Yeah, because I feel like you definitely need more hours. Particularly, it seems like the that revenue projection that we've been talking about is to some degree dependent on having enough inspector hours to get out there and do all the inspections that would be requested. I'm mindful, though, that we would prefer not to hire anybody new if possible. But at the same time, I think, I'd be willing to look at finding some other places in the budget where we might get cut so that we could move that part-time inspector position up to full-time.
Yeah, I'm not sure where we would cut in the department budget to get to that number. If you take a look, we obviously don't have a huge contracted services line, so cutting from our budget would mean cutting staff. So I don't think we could find that kind of funding in our departmental budget.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't necessarily mean your departmental budget. I was meaning in the budget as a whole, if we could find some little bits here and there.
If we were to take that person that's qualified right now, that's in, I believe, community development, right, Steve?
Mm-hmm.
Then we're taking a person from community development. If we were to create this a full time and that person is going to be dedicated to the building department, that now means the community development is down a half a person.
It would create an issue there. Yes. Yeah.
And then I'm assuming the community development, he or she needs those same qualifications for being a community development. Or is it they just got some more degrees? They don't actually necessarily need those degrees in the position they're at in community development.
I guess they don't necessarily need the code enforcement certification, but it certainly benefits that person, doing rehab to residential properties and stuff. It's definitely a benefit.
All right, thank you.
Steve Shavit?
Yeah, thanks, Doug. I guess this would be directed to John. Would the increase from 17 to 25 hours, would it affect any kind of benefits or anything like that? Unmute.
You're muted, John.
All right, total cost is $12,384, including benefits. Now the benefits are only state retirement system and then payroll taxes. There's no health insurance, anything like that on there.
Okay.
Okay. Including building code, there are no more comments, questions. Let's move on to the plumbing code, which is page 100 in the budget book. Very few changes. My only hope would be that the revenue line 2565 can be realized. We have $80,000 in there. It's a little bit of a bump over last year. Other than that, I don't have any comments.
I think we're going to be close to reaching that this year, and we'll have additional licensing fees going into next year. That's going to apply to local plumbers. This year, we'll be adding a gas license and a heating license for plumbers and contractors that do that type of work. So that's where that additional revenue will be coming from.
Okay. We move on to, yes, Steve. Steve, yeah. Steve Shavit.
Yeah, Steve, when you said you're going to be close to the projected amount, do you mean the revised projected amount or last year's? You're going to reach last year's, or you're going to hit the 80,000 this year, you think?
Well,
You thought you were going to hit the projected amount.
I think we'll be close to hitting, bear with me one second. I'm taking a look at where we are to date. Yeah, we're at about $43,000 to date, with plumbing, fees. We have 2 months to go, and traditionally December is a big month, because we do have all the relicensing fees due in December. So that's traditionally a over $25,000 a month for us. But I think we'll be over. I think we'll be. We should definitely reach our 75,000, and may exceed that.
Okay, let's, thank you. Let's move on to demolition unsafe buildings. There are no changes. We're talking about $50,000 in contracted services balanced by $50,000 in reimbursement. So they go together, right?
Yeah, it's basically just a pass through. If the city decides the building needs to be torn down, we use those funds for that purpose, and then it applied to the taxes. So that's how that's why it's a kind of a zero balance account.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Finally, moving on to zoning, which there are no change, minuscule savings of $308. I don't see anything of particular note in that. Does anyone else? This is page 103 in the budget book.
So is this the part-time, this is the zoning, this is what we've been talking about? And kitchen, I'm assuming?
Yes, this is zoning, yes.
So he gets paid about 24K a year.
Correct.
And that's at 17 hours.
It's at 17 and a half hours, yeah.
17 and a half hours.
Yeah.
Okay, if we roll, yes, Michelle?
So there's overtime pay of 1,000, like about how many hours is that?
Yeah, I'm not sure what the hourly breakdown is, but.
Can I just point out too, just to note, the 17 and a half hours, so everyone understands the work schedule. So the building department has a 35-hour work week, so that is half time, just so you're familiar.
John, can you ask, I have a question, is it, or Doug, I can ask John. How much overtime did this part-time employee make so far this year?
Well,
Oh, go ahead, Steve.
I actually don't have the exact hours or anything, but I know that I was going to be coming to do a budget modification to put some additional money in that line item to cover his pay for the rest of the year and stuff. I think I haven't, enough for another payroll or two, and then I was going to ask for additional funds, or at least move some funds to cover him for the rest of the year, which I think is going to amount to about $4,000.
All right, so if we're discussing, bumping his hours up, that would probably give us a good idea of historically what he might need.
Right, and I mean,
983 year to date.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think that this year's numbers would reflect exactly what next year's is going to be, because we did have COVID and there was a moratorium on construction for a little over 2 months. So there was a lot of weeks where he didn't use the 25 hours because we had the moratorium going, where next year maybe more consistently busy like it was for the rest of the month.
Fingers crossed.
John, can you mind just repeating that number that you said?
Sure. Year to date, we're at $983 of overtime.
For the in zoning.
Yes.
So we're about $1,000 what you put in the budget anyway.
Yes.
And what can you have figures from last year?
Last year was 0.
Oh, okay. So this year is about 1,000 with budget for another 1,000 for going next year.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the overtime hours that are in the budget were basically covered Eric's time at training. When our code officers have to do 24 hours of continuing ed each year, and Eric was doing his initial training. So that $1,000 basically covered the additional hours he needed to do his training.
Yeah, and I should also point out that like this year with his 17.5-hour work week, for hours worked between a 17.5 and a 25 hours, he's not getting overtime for it. He's just getting that straight pay. So that would just go, any hours there would get charged to his part-time line.
So John, you said you're going to get back to us with that figure from 17.5 to 25.
I already gave that. Yeah, I'll give it to you right now. It's 12,384 is the grand total of that move.
On top of what he's already getting in.
Correct.
Or what was budget anyway, I mean.
Yes. Yeah, that's the increasing the part-time line, increasing the payroll tax and the state retirement.
So you're talking about $36,000.
Well, if take a look at page 104. If you go to page 104 of the budget, that part-time line is the last item on there. That's the grand total with benefits is $28,895. You'd be adding $12,384 to that number.
Oh, okay.
All right, so you're around 40,000, 41,000.
You ain't lying, man.
Okay. Steve, I think that, unless there are other questions, I think that completes the review of the building department, the roll-up of your 4 departments, building code, plumbing code, demolition of unsafe buildings, and zoning results in a favorable variance of $119,020, which the detail of which, most of which you've gone over, driven primarily by increases in revenue of 23.3%. And that one item, $168,000 increase in the building code revenue. So your work's cut out for you.
I understand that.
Yeah. All right. So I thank you for the work you've done this year and the work you're going to do next year and the preparation that you put into this budget. You know, I know you're busy, your people are busy, and you're doing this without any increase in headcount. So with that, any other comments? Okay, I'll just remind the committee here previews of coming attractions. As you know, next Monday and Tuesday are caucus and council. The regular finance meeting will be held on Thursday, November 12th, beginning at 8 p.m. to accommodate the work schedule of your chairman. The next review meeting for the budget will be with Recreation Department on Monday, November 16th, followed by City Hall on Tuesday, November 17th.
Well, I got one question, and
Yeah.
Doug, and we never talked to Steve, and you dismissed him about his capital plan. He's got an item on his capital plan.
Steve doesn't have anything in the capital plan.
Was building department.
Well, yeah. I'm sorry. You're absolutely right. And he's gone, right? Thank you for that catch, Tony. There's a hybrid SUV. John, can you make any comments on that?
In terms of what? In terms of, I think it's self-descriptive. It was a request that he had for his fleet. If you're asking me for counts of vehicles, all that, I wouldn't have that with me.
I thought using the building safety, have they been in new vehicles, or have they been getting the vehicles coming from the fire department and the police department?
As of late, they've been getting new. They have some of the hybrids. In the past, my office in the building department were getting the hand-me-downs from the police department. But what we found is real issues with reliability of those vehicles. And then we're clogging up DPW with having them fix those vehicles. So our department's getting away from that. The building department's getting away from that.
We've also had the question in the past of the greater expense of hybrid vehicles and whether that's totally worth it, particularly in this period of economic downturn. Anybody have any comments on that angle?
I do. This is Don. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Go ahead, Don. Yeah, we hear you fine.
Okay, sorry, I'll get the picture on here. So I don't think it makes sense financially to have electric vehicles. At least that's what I've been told by people on the ground. I think, Randy, isn't it the point, though, that Kingston is trying to be a leader in environmental, and being more closer to net zero, striving to be less emissions, less carbon footprint. So, and that's, we know that's a premium, and this is really what it comes down to, having as many city vehicles as we can, hybrid or electric. John?
Do you want me to read Steve's capital request and how it pertains to to what he's looking to use it for?
Yes, please.
Sure. Building and zoning enforcement has proposed the addition of commercial property inspections be added to its responsibilities beginning 2021. If accepted, an additional inspector would be hired to perform said inspections, would require a vehicle to conduct daily inspections. Building safety has purchased a few new vehicles in the past 2 years to replace its aging stock. We recommend the purchase of a hybrid all-wheel drive vehicle similar to its latest purchases, which cost around $38,000. And then the invoice for the last purchase has been included for reference, which is a copy of a vehicle they purchased from North Star Mitsubishi, and it's $37,000 and change. I do know that the employee who would be doing the work is based in City Hall. There is a vehicle in City Hall, but it's used quite a bit, I believe. So this vehicle would give the building department another vehicle that can be used for the commercial property inspections.
Thank you, John. This is a bad thing. And Doug, you were, and when you were reading off the schedule and the times, I didn't have anything to write down with. And next one is Parks and Recs. It's still on the 16th.
Parks and Recs will be on Monday, November 16th. That's our next review meeting.
All righty. What time?
6:30.
And then City Hall is the next day?
City Hall is on Tuesday, November 17th.
And then the wrap up
Yeah,
is
John?
Doug, I would make a recommendation, Doug, for City Hall, if you could do what you've done in the past, is provide the department heads with an approximate schedule or an order.
I'm planning on doing that.
Okay, great.
We did that last year, and I'll probably replicate pretty much what we did last year. I have last year's schedule. I'll probably work from there so that we can get people in and out quickly.
Great.
the wrap up is the 23rd.
The wrap up is the, yes, Monday, the 23rd, but as you know, maybe you don't know, that will be preceded by the budget hearing at 5 p.m.
And now, Andrea, I'm sorry, what day have we moved our public safety and CDBG? I think you're all on the same day now, right?
They are, but it actually works out okay because Elisa is going to take the public safety meeting and then I'll take the community development meeting.
And what day is that, just so I can have my calendar?
That is the 24th.
24th.
Yeah, community development will actually start with an informational session for the public.
Okay.
And start that with the community office. And then Elisa will start your meeting at 6 o'clock. And community development will go on at 6:30.
Okay.
But yeah, the meeting running. So then there's Jeffrey who's on both committees. So he'll just, Tony, you're gonna have to talk fast.
All right. I can see if I can get it down in 3 minutes.
Yeah, but on our side, we'll just have to figure out, one committee might lose Jeffrey for a few minutes, but tech wise, we're all set. Took a while, but we figured it out.
Alrighty. And Doug, you said the budget hearing is starting at 5 p.m. for the public.
Yes, on the 23rd.
23rd. All right. And we all
Monday the 23rd.
We don't all have to be there for that. That's just people going to
I certainly hope that everyone will make an effort to be there. We want to listen to the public, and of course, from there we roll right into the wrap-up meeting at 6:30.
All righty. Okay.
So I think it'd be great if the entire committee, if the entire council can attend the budget hearing. Okay, with that, is there a motion to adjourn? 1 and 2, okay, we are adjourned. I should ask for a vote. All in favor? Okay.